II reunion this weekend. This one from Sunday features actor and World War II veteran Jack Palance. It's just under an hour.
Hey, well, good afternoon and welcome all. My name is Tom Doherty. I chair the Film Studies program at Brandeis University, and it is my privilege to be moderating the Wartime Stories sessions entitled World War II Veterans as Film Performers for the Smithsonian Institution's National World War II Reunion. Today, alas, is the final day of 4 days of testimony and remembrance, wherein a cohort of likely veterans and colleagues, Tuskegee Airmen, Navajo Code Talkers, Army nurses, share their wartime experiences in conversation with each other and the audience. The role of the moderator in this conversation will be minimal. I'll ask a few initial questions to get things rolling and then get out of the way as the real expert speaks and remembers. After 20 minutes or so, the panelists will welcome comments and questions from the audience. Today's session is focused on the relationship between World War II and film performers. The topic invites at least two lines of inquiry. First, what was the role of actors in service during World War II? And second, in what ways did the experiences of World War II inform and shape the work of actors and other Hollywood artists in post-war American cinema? After all, World War II was the 20th century event most widely covered by the motion picture camera. All of the major combatants, the British, the Soviet Union, the US, and especially, of course, the movie-mad Nazis, recognized the crucial importance of film as a weapon of war. Whether in terms of military training films, education and propaganda films, or morale-boosting entertainment features for everyone. I am delighted now to introduce an actor who can speak not only to his experiences as a soldier in World War II, but to how that background has informed his career on stage and in screen for over 50 years. Jack Palance flew surveillance planes for the Army Air Corps during World War II. If I am not mistaken, his big break in acting came while he was playing understudy to Marlon Brando as Stanley Kowalski in A Streetcar Named Desire. While horsing around with Brando off stage, he inadvertently punched Brando in the face. Is this true? Brando went to the hospital. Palance played the part that night, and on the strength of his performance, nabbed a contract at 20th Century Fox. Is that true? His screen debut came in 1950 in Elia Kazan's thriller, Panic in the Streets, where he played a killer infected with bubonic plague. Since then, he has played more parts than I have time here to enumerate this afternoon, but I have to mention at least two of his most memorable performances. If you are over a certain age, like me, you will remember him vividly for his terrifying portrayal of the rattlesnake mean gunslinger threatening Alan Ladd, Van Heflin, and Jean Arthur in George Stevens' classic western, Shane. In 1953. If you are under a certain age, you'll more fondly remember a gentler side of Mr. Palance as the veteran cowhand Curly in City Slickers in 1991. For which he won the Oscar as Best Supporting Actor. So I've just got a few initial questions, and then I think very quickly we can move to questions from the audience, and the mic will be on my right, your left, in this aisle. So if you could come down to the mic, and when we do have the question session, if you could keep your comments and questions brief, it'd be appreciated so we can hear from as many voices as possible. Perhaps to begin, could you take a few minutes to tell us how you wound up in uniform and what you did during World War II?
What I did?
Yes.
I looked around for Ernie Borgnine. That's what I did.
Oh, we're looking for him today.
That son of a gun run out on me then and again now. Oh, now what did I do?
Yeah, how do you wind up in uniform and what did you do during the Second World War?
How did I wind up?
In uniform?
Yeah, somebody put a gun in my back
Yeah?
and said, "Go, you bastard, or we pull the trigger." So, how did I end up in the uniform?
Yeah, did you enlist? Were you drafted? What branch of the service did you want to get in?
No, I wasn't drafted. If I'd been drafted, I would have gone into the regular army. So I enlisted and went for the wings as a pilot. Took me, I don't know, it took about 6 months or 8 months, something like that. I don't remember, to get to win the wings. And that's what happened. So I got the wings and was dispatched to most of my fellow graduates were sent immediately, almost immediately, to Germany. And incredibly, about, as I remember, I think it was 13 out of 15 went down on the first mission. But they didn't send me, they sent me to fly a patrol. I flew a patrol across the lower part of the United States to California and then up to Canada. And I did that a number of times, and then one time the plane didn't respond and we went down. And so I was, instead of ending up in the actual service, I was, I just an honorable discharge.
And what year was this, and what kind of plane did you fly?
I flew the B-24, the four-engine bomber. What year was that? That was
40.
about 44, 43 or 44.
And you were pretty beaten up in that crash, as I recall.
Yes, I was. If you look closely, I still have a couple of bumps up here. So,
Yeah.
it's not funny.
So how long was your period of convalescence, and when you got out of the Army, what was your first job or first goal in civilian life?
Well, I guess really nothing happened until 1949, when I became an actor. I went to Stanford. That's what I did then. I had had a couple of years at the University of North Carolina, and now I decided to go to Stanford to get my degree, and I did.
Is this on the GI Bill? Did you go to Stanford on the GI Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't a GI. Anyway, I went off to Stanford, and from Stanford I started doing a little bit of acting. And then I went to New York, decided to go there. And it worked. I had heard so many times how tough it was to get a job, and I guess it was. I walked into an office where they were casting for a play. The play was to be directed by Robert Montgomery, who was very well known at that time. And I walked in, there was a bunch of people, and they all looked so despondent. They looked like they were never going to get any work. So I turned around and headed for the door. And Mr. Montgomery walked in and said, "Don't you leave, I want you." So I put my arms up, and he said, "No, not that way." And I got the job. I think I had 5 lines.
Is this in a film or live TV or stage? What was it?
Oh, this was stage.
Yeah.
New York, yeah. And, well, that started, so I hung around New York for quite a few years, going from one play to another, until I got a job with Elia Kazan, who was quite a well-known director of films. And that was it. That was the start of a film career. And I've hung around, and I'm here today hoping that hell I'd get some work. But nothing has happened.
In the early part of your career, you were sometimes typecast as a not too pleasant individual.
I was what?
You were sometimes typecast as a real bad guy in some of your
Oh.
early films.
Yeah. Well, being a bad guy sometimes was very good, because the bad guy, he generally has the dominating role, really. So, though I did play some nice guys,
Occasionally.
honest.
Yeah. You also played in a lot of great war movies, like Halls of Montezuma. What was it like playing in a pretend war for Hollywood after actually being in the service during the Second World War? Did the wartime background inform your acting roles at all?
Oh, I think it would help to some degree, but you better know how to act. And I had learned a little bit.
Your friend Lee Marvin always said that his experiences as a drill instructor in the Marines informed his sense of menace on screen, that having been able to menace people, in the Marine Corps, it helped him on screen to menace audiences.
He did what? That son of a gun had so many stories, I can't believe it.
That's what he said in the interview.
What?
What he said in his interviews, Mr. Palance, was that his wartime background as a character who had to communicate courage and authority sometimes really worked to his advantage on screen when he played those similar roles.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Lee had a lot of things to lay back on, lay or lie. Well, there was a little bit of lying, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, look, all I know about Lee is he was a hell of a guy, one of the greatest guys I've ever known.
Yeah.
But he had a problem, and he drank too much, that's all. Or he could have been, probably could have been the top man in Hollywood.
Of your screen career in the, let's say, throughout the 1950s, what were some of your favorite, most memorable screen roles?
Screen roles?
Yeah, in the 50s.
Oh. I'm going to have trouble with that. I don't remember a one goddamn film.
Well, I do.
Do you?
Sure.
Oh, Halls of Montezuma.
Yeah. The Big Knife,
The Big Knife, yeah.
Attack.
Yeah, and a couple of those, Lee was in them too, Lee
Yeah.
Marvin. You know how nice it is. He remembers better than I do.
One of my favorite performances of yours is in the television movie Requiem for a Heavyweight. A lot of
Oh,
people
yes.
might remember the film with Anthony Quinn, but you played in the original television production of Requiem for a Heavyweight.
Yeah.
Do people remember that?
Yeah.
I've always thought that
I'm
was
going to
just-
keep saying yeah.
as long as I continue praising you, right? I've always been impressed that you could 90-minute live performance
Oh,
on
yes.
television,
Yeah.
carry that transition throughout the entire play.
Yeah. Well, I did, actually, I did fight professionally
Really?
in New York, yes.
With Marlon Brando.
I had 14, I had 14 fights, I won 12. The last one was the last one. And there wasn't any more fighting.
Fair enough. Well, as you can see, I'm having a lot of success with Mr. Palance, so I think we're going to go to questions and see if some members of the audience might have some either commentary or questions for Mr. Palance on his wartime service or his screen career. And I think the microphone will be where, Mike? Right over there? Or... And if you could try to keep your questions brief so as many people as possible get a chance to ask. I don't think it is. I can repeat the question.
When was the last time you did any one-arm push-ups, and can you do any for us today?
Man, that's going to cost you a lot. You know, I haven't done a one-arm push-up since I discovered I had two arms. The only thing I can do really is a two-arm push-up. I can show you that. What? Yeah. After all that effort, my little wife is sitting on the side yelling, "You're a show-off." Well, I am. That's it?
That was great. Next.
Mr. Palance, do you have a favorite World War II movie, one you thought that he was either the best artistically or the most authentic, real to life?
That Lee was what?
I wondered if you had if you could choose what you think was the best World War II movie that was either the best as a movie or the closest to the real thing, to the real war.
Oh, I really can't do that. I can't choose that. I can't think of it immediately. I'd have to go home and sit there all night long, and then in the morning I'll come looking for you. I don't remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Besides, I'm puffing and huffing right now. Oh. Be still, my heart. What is the rest of that? Be still, my heart, and something, something. Behind those hills is the sun still shining. There is a poem, but I don't remember the rest of it.
Mr. Palance.
Yes, ma'am.
You had said that Ernest Borgnine stood you up before. Could you tell us a little bit about that situation?
That he did what?
That he stood you up before?
Screwed me up?
No. No.
Oh, he stood me up. Aha. Yeah. Those words are quite a bit similar.
Depends on too.
Yeah. So he stood me up before?
Yes.
Yeah. First thing I do when I get back to Hollywood, I'm going to punch him right in the mouth. And being the guy he is, he'll just stand there and take it.
Jack, thanks so much for coming. It figures that you would be part of this, coming down here for the dedication of the memorial. And have in fact, sir, have you seen the memorial itself, and what do you think of it?
Well, I think it's a remarkable thing to do, and I think it's remarkable that it's in this remarkable city. It is a fantastic city, and so deserving of being the capital of our nation. I'm delighted to be here, and I think the times that I've been here, certainly during those 2 years at the University of North Carolina, because I was there on a football scholarship, and when I wanted to get home, that didn't mean anything. I had to hitchhike. So I did get to know the highways and the byways to the university. Yes, ma'am.
What was your major at UNC?
Football, I guess. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good
I'm
afternoon.
working on the story of World War II. Would you take the role as a film director?
Do what?
Take a role as a film director. Can you still direct films?
Can I direct?
Yes. Would you take the job? You just say that you're looking for a job, so maybe you can take this job.
Boy, if I try to direct, I think I'd get lost, and so would everybody else. No, I tried directing, and I didn't have fun doing it. So I just ran back to acting after one try. Thank you.
I wonder if you'd settle a bet that I made in 1953.
Holy God, you still remember?
We were real fans of yours, and my cousin Jimmy...
Oh, listen to that, we were.
My cousin Jimmy said that you had so much poise because before you were an actor, you were a ballet dancer. Is that true?
No, that wasn't a ballet dancer, it was a belly dancer. Golly, I don't know where the hell that would come from, ballet. Just one.
I don't have a question, but I just want to tell you how much I've enjoyed your films and everything that you've done over the years and how good looking you are today.
Oh, I wish the hell you wouldn't run away. Yes, sir.
Jack, I love Westerns. I absolutely love Westerns, and Shane was one of the best Westerns I've ever seen. Can you still handle a gun like you used to?
Oh. And then it hits your toe and you say, you son of a...
This is as much an observation as a question. The moderator earlier commented about your participation in the movie Attack.
Yeah.
In it, Lee Marvin, Eddie Albert, Buddy Ebsen, I think Robert Strauss.
Yes.
I marvel at your performance in the movie. I was convinced that you alone, despite your demise at the end of the movie, made all of it the world safe for democracy. Your depiction in that movie was so riveting, so realistic, and I just want to thank you for that performance. It, for lack of a better phrase, it demonstrated the horrors, the ugliness of war. Thank you.
I thank you. That's beautiful. Holy golly, look at this. Now, if this guy says he was in World War II...
Mr. Palance, I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm 12 years old, and I was wondering if I could have your autograph.
What's your name?
Patrick?
Patrick. Holy God, this has worked. Oh. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Palance. I am a big fan of yours, as opposed to saying was. I'm going to test your memory a little bit more. I've got a copy of a film called Austerlitz by the French director Abel Gance, in which you played an Austrian officer and was speaking both French and German. Do you, in fact, speak both those languages? Or was that just for the movie?
French and German?
Mm-hmm.
Holy God. Hey, I'm so happy that I speak English.
You did it very well. I didn't think it was acting. It sounded like you really could speak the languages.
I think it may have been somebody else.
You think? Okay. Just wanted to check.
I really don't remember that.
I think it was probably a late 30s movie, so.
Oh God, I didn't get into the movies until the early 50s.
Had your name on the credit, so maybe my date's wrong.
Well, boy, they give me credit, no cash.
Thank you. I'll hit you for the autograph later.
Okay.
Mr. Palance, I saw you in 1992. You testified at the Subcommittee on Aging hearings, and you said that you were doing art. You testified on behalf of art therapy, and you did 12 push-ups, as a matter of fact. I'm wondering,
God, I get those push-ups in everywhere I go.
Are you still doing art? Because you testified on behalf of art at the hearing.
Can I testify on what?
On behalf of the use of art for the elderly. That was in 1992.
The years of art?
The use of art, using art, and you said that you yourself did a lot.
The use of art?
Yes. Painting, drawing.
Oh, like painting.
And drawing.
I still paint. I paint a lot. I don't know what the hell else to do. I do paint, yes.
You still paint?
Yes.
I had my photo taken with you, and for 12 years I've been dying to get your address so you could autograph it for me. I don't have it with me today because I didn't know you were
Wait
here.
Wait a minute. Hey, my wife is over here on the corner.
It's a beautiful photo, but I didn't bring it because I didn't know you'd be here today. So I'm wondering if later you would give me your autograph so I can put it on the photo.
You'll put it on the photo?
A photo that was taken of me with you. It's huge. So if I could have your autograph later, I'll put it on the photo.
Yeah, how much later?
Mr. Palance.
Yeah.
We'll do a meet and greet after, not once the discussion is over, if that's okay, instead of now, so we can keep the discussion.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
No, I thank you, really.
There'll be an opportunity after the panel.
Well, Mr. Palance, my father was on the USS Maryland battleship at Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. And my question to you is, do you remember where you were and what you were doing December 7th, and what thoughts came to mind in the aftermath?
1941?
41 on December 7th when Pearl Harbor was attacked. Do you remember that day? And
1941. Jesus, I was only 19 years old. I still hadn't gotten into the service. So, and I came along a couple of years later, I suppose.
Do you remember where you were when you heard the news of Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, I was in Latimer Mines, Pennsylvania. That was a little town where I was born, a coal mining town. And I actually mined coal for a while. But that was too tough, so I quit and went back to school.
by the way, I thought you did a great Dracula.
Yeah, I thought you'd think of that one.
Good afternoon, Mr. Palance. Just to bring back semi-reality here, in Attack, in regard to that earlier statement about you holding the war together there, actually the cowardly Eddie Albert had been a veteran of the real thing, and so had Lee Marvin and a number of the others. To what degree did your actual experiences come into play in forming the characters, and did you and any of the other veteran actors give any feedback to the director in regard to the realism of the movie?
Yeah. I looked at that director and said, "You son of a bee, you keep that camera on me or I'll beat the hell out of you." So, I don't think we had anything to do with the directing. A fellow named Bob Aldrich. Bob was in the service for quite a while too, and he directed 3 films that I was in, and he was a marvelous director. I didn't have to say anything. He knew what he wanted. I don't know if I answered that question or not.
Well, so both the director and some of the actors were drawing on experience to a certain extent in bringing about the whole movie?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think so. I think anything we had, we contributed. Anything we knew about.
Seemed to show in the result.
Yeah, they were good films. Attack and which?
Well, Attack first comes to mind.
Attack is one. There were a couple of others. I don't remember.
You were great in all of them, and as for Shane, you didn't say much, but you certainly were memorable enough in that.
Yeah, those bastards wouldn't give me a chance to say anything.
You didn't have to. Your just presence did the job.
Hey, pal, I'd get more money if I said something.
I might have been indirectly responsible for you being here and putting you into service. I was a recruiting officer in Philadelphia, recruiting aviation cadets. I shipped out about 50,000 men from eastern Pennsylvania, including most aviation cadets. So you probably enlisted somewhere in eastern Pennsylvania, Latimer Mines?
That's it, Latimer.
And you were sent to Philadelphia to be sworn in?
Yeah, I went there to swear.
Okay, well, I think I was the one that administered your oath of enlistment and shipped you out to a southern airfield.
Oh, really? My God.
And incidentally, I had an aunt in a hospital in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, and in her next bed was an aunt of yours lauding your performance as an actor. Hazleton, PA?
Yeah, of course.
Latimer Mines close to that?
I was born in Latimer.
Yeah, that's all I have to say.
That's about 3 miles from Hazleton, so.
Oh, well, I probably enlisted you then. I swore in the men from eastern Pennsylvania.
Well. Thank you.
Watch your steps, sir.
Oh, boy. Well, that's an unveiling. It's wonderful. Yes, sir.
I just want to say thank you for being here. I've been a fan for you for quite a while, ever since I saw City Slickers. You've been great. I'm going to test your memory probably more than anybody, but I was wondering if you had a memorable experience from your childhood or teenage years.
What, an experience from my childhood?
If you have a memory from it.
I'm sorry, I don't understand that.
A memorable experience from your childhood years.
My childhood years.
Childhood or when you were a teenager.
Yeah, actually, the most memorable is I decided I was going to be a fighter, boxer. So when I was 14 years old, I had to walk 7 miles to get a fight. And I would get it, and I got $5 every fight. And that was a hell of a lot of money, man. That's all I remember, really, from those years.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
During World War II, George Stevens made a number of films during the war, about the war. I believe he was part of liberation of some of the POW camps and that sort of thing. Did you and he discuss any of those experiences during your time when you were making Shane?
Well, we probably would have, but George was doing westerns, and I don't know what wartime experience would have to do with the western. And what?
It was supposedly mentioned that this was actually an analogous to a war film, in that the homesteaders versus the cattlemen, Shane and your character, Jack Wilson. But that was just discussed in literary circles about the status of the film and what George Stevens was trying to do with it. Do you have any recollection of any discussions to that end?
To what we would do?
The film relative to the war and his experiences in his film work during the war.
We didn't have too much discussion because I admired George Stevens, and whatever he came up with seemed good enough for me, and so we got right into it. George Stevens was one of the most brilliant directors I ever worked with, and he was not afraid to walk off and talk to his assistant director and point out, I think I should do this. And you could almost hear the other guy saying, well, George, why don't you try? And that was marvelous. That was marvelous for all of the actors, because they had a director who wanted the best, and he was getting it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I had a quick question. I was wondering if today you could still feel like you could fly a B-24 if you went out there today.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Could you still fly a B-24 today?
Can I still fly a B-24?
Well, could you?
Oh, I was in one the other day, and I flew it all over the ground. No, honey, I wouldn't dare to try it.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we have reached.
Well, I do have one final question, though. You've made light of
What?
You've made light of both your acting career and your wartime service, but I think everyone here knows, what you went through in the Second World War. And also, I think that your career afterwards with a group of Hollywood professionals who shared that experience.
Oh, yes.
George Stevens,
Loved
Lee
it.
Marvin, Robert Aldrich, you mentioned.
No, it wasn't George Stevens. The professionals.
No, not the professionals. I was talking about that generation
Oh,
of
I see,
actors
I see,
and Hollywood
yeah.
directors
Yeah.
who served both in uniform and after the Second World War went on to make a series of films, whether explicitly about the war or wars like Attack, or allegorically about the war like Shane. Their wartime experience seemed to inform many of these motion pictures because this was a generation of artists that had also served in uniform. At what point do you think Hollywood changed? That is, that at some point in the 60s or the 70s, it seems that the relationship between Hollywood artists and the military and the portrayal of war on screen changed. And since you were working in Hollywood in both periods, in the 50s and 60s and later in the 70s and 80s, did you experience this shift in the Hollywood attitude towards the American military and towards war?
Toward the American what?
Towards the American military and war.
You know, I think, and maybe for the good, everything has shifted to fun. A lot of the movies are just for that reason. They've got pairs, man and woman, that they think will play beautifully together. And that's very important today. And the other thing has gone slowly gone away. I don't know what the hell I said. Anyway.
Well, it sounded good.
Yeah. Anyway.
I think we have
we got one more.
One final question. Yeah.
Where the hell were you?
Every wonderful man, there's a wonderful family and wife, and would you mind introducing your family?
Would I mind introducing my family?
How about your wife?
Well, I don't have any family here except my wife. Elena.
I am so glad
Elena
to get a chance
Rogers.
to say something.
Now, when we talk about wartime heroes, not Elaine, but her father, whom they called Bull, and he got quite a few medals for his service in Europe, and he was just a terrific guy who had a lot of guts.
Well, my father was a major in the U.S. Army. He was commander of Armored Tank Battalion, Company 736. They worked with the Gizmo, was one of their special projects. They worked in Northern Africa, and he was also in Germany and in France. And I hope some of the fellows from 736 are here. I don't know if any of you are here today, but I know that they are attending this weekend, and we're hoping to run into some of them in the reunion tents. And I want to introduce my sister, who's here from Houston, right here. Adela Owen. Her husband, Michael Owen, who is a Vietnam vet. He served 2 tours in Vietnam. He was in the Navy. And their son, Elliot Owen. They all came up from Houston to see the monument and attend the festivities and the dedication yesterday. So we are so proud of all you men. Can't talk about it because it's way too emotional for me. But we're so honored to be here. And I'm so happy that I'm married to this phenomenal man who allowed me the opportunity to be here this weekend.
Well, I generally don't allow Elaine to talk because I can never stop her.
That seems like an apt note to close on. On behalf of the Smithsonian Institution and everyone here, I'd like to thank Mr. Palance for his generosity this afternoon in sharing his wartime story and for his service to our country. Thank you so much.
Next, the Smithsonian Institution Storyteller Series continues with professional ball players who served during World War II. After that, a look at the Holocaust and the Nuremberg